Oh, good evening. This April 27th, 2020 regular meeting of the Carmel Clay School Board is called to order. This is clearly not a regular meeting as we are participating via Zoom and are streamed live on the Carmel Clay Schools YouTube channel because of restrictions in place due to the coronavirus. While we are not physically present at the Educational Service Center, we are following the requirements of the Indiana Open Door Act and related guidance for conducting this Carmel Clay School Board meeting as required by Indiana law. Roll call, Madam Secretary.
All board members are present today.
Thank you. Colleen, do you need us to each individually signify we're present, or is that good enough?
I think because we can visually see you all, I think we should be good enough. But when we do the
There's one action item.
Yeah.
For consent, so we'll do that. Okay.
Yep. Okay. All right.
I started our last meeting on March 23rd, just over a month ago, with a long list of thanks on behalf of the board. We continue to provide virtual learning to our students and food to some of our families. We have seen members of the Carmel Clay School family reach out to each other to provide support and help in these unprecedented times. We have seen SROs driving by students' homes, signs appearing in yards to recognize accomplishments of our students, and countless other examples of supporting each other. I again want to thank our teachers and administrators, our technology department, our food service team, and community volunteers, and countless other members who have stepped up during this challenge, and all the rest of our Carmel Clay families. We will continue to be the best at getting better as we adapt to this challenge. The professionals at Carmel Clay Schools are here for our students, their families, and each other. So if you need assistance, please reach out. Also during this time, take advantage of the opportunities that just this challenge brings, and we will get through this together. Oh, I skipped the pledge. We went out of order. So I'm going to go back and ask Pete O'Hara to lead us in the pledge.
Okay, and I'm going to pull up the. Okay.
I pledge allegiance to the flag
of
of the United States of America and to the
Republic
for which it stands, one
nation,
under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Pete. We appreciate you being with us this evening. We appreciate you leading us in the pledge. At this time, we would normally have the pleasure of congratulating the accomplishments of some of our students. Just because we are not physically together, we still want to recognize those fantastic accomplishments. While we will not be shaking their hands, we will have presentations from their teachers and coaches and photos of the students. I want to thank the presenters in advance and give a special shout out to our board secretary, Colleen Nobis, for putting these presentations together. First, we have the Carmel High School debate team. The presenters are Ms. Maria Sadovich and Mr. Dylan Gentlecore.
The story of the Carmel Debate Club for the past 3 years has been a story of wit and grit, highlighting the passion and commitment of the CHS staff to our intelligent, knowledge-thirsty, and hardworking student body. My name is Marie Sachivi, and I'm the head coach of the Carmel Debate team. In the fall of 2017, a group of 5 students approached me and asked me whether I would be willing to coach the Carmel Debate team after several other teachers they had talked to were unable to give them a satisfactory response. Seeing the desperation on their faces, knowing that I was a debate teacher myself and someone who was truly passionate about debate, there was no way for me to escape the new responsibility that was being laid upon me. But it was clear that as a full-time English teacher, I couldn't do it alone. So I enlisted the support of a bright, passionate, dedicated new English teacher who was resolute to make a difference in a career he had just started, Coach Gentlecore. We both courageously accepted the responsibility, gave up the little free time we had for grading, as well as our valuable time with our families on weekends in exchange for a modest stipend, but tons of fun. We were ready to travel every Saturday, to leave our homes at the wee hours of the day, only to return home sometimes just an hour or two before the new day started. We set goals and procedures for the club with the collaboration of our tremendous officers. These officers are the backbone of the Carmel Debate Club, as they work tirelessly and selflessly to motivate every student who sign up for the club and give them the best, so they could eventually join the ranks of the best debaters in Indiana and the U.S. Today, they are being honored, and as their coaches, we are delighted to see them being recognized for their intelligence, hard work, and dedication. We are extremely grateful to the Carmel Clay School Corporation and to the Carmel Clay School Board for this event. Thank you for recognizing our students' efforts to represent our school district honorably in an area where CHS is underrepresented and almost unwelcome. But how can that be for a school of our caliber? Because of their hard work, talent, and dedication, we are sending more than 15 students to nationals, a feat that we have never accomplished at Carmel High School until this year. A feat that only a handful of schools with robust debate and speech programs manage to do occasionally. Our students are the pride of our school, community, and country, and we can never celebrate them enough. So thank you. Now, it is my pleasure and honor to yield to Koji, who will be presenting those remarkable students.
Thank you, Coach Sachivi. My name is Dylan Gentlecore, and I am the assistant coach for Carmel Debate. It is my great honor to introduce to you our accomplished debaters. Club President, Iris Yan. Vice President, Rohil Sinapati. Public Forum Event Head, Edward Dong. Public Forum Event Head, Andrew Sanchez. Lincoln Douglas Event Head, Vivian Zhang. Policy Event Head, Jade Mehta. Policy Event Head, Sage Mehta. Congress Event Head, Isabella Falahi. In Public Forum, Caleb Sui, Somya Chundi, Leah Tan, Marissa Finney, and Kate Smith. In Lincoln Douglas, Jasmine Sue, and Sanjana Patharla. In Policy, Paul Berger Romeo, Shiva Viswanath, Abiram Ankaraju, Syed Daniel Sher, Faith Austin, and Meghna Iyer. In Congress, Ayan Abbasi, Neo Huang, and Jordan Siegel. In World Schools Debate, Nicholas Su, Anushka Pundi, Leonard Rubchinsky, Samya Samasi, James Zhang, Yiling Li, Sanchali Putharu, Shrithan Sandati, Shreya Una, and Michael Walker. In Big Questions Debate, Colin Zoe. Coach Sachivi and I would like to thank the board for this recognition and extend one final thank you to these students and their wonderful families, because without all of their hard work and dedication, this truly memorable and historic year would not have been possible. Thank you.
Well, thank you very much, coaches. Next presentation is perfect ACT/SAT score. The presenter is Ms. Rachel Cole.
Welcome to the school board recognition for perfect ACT/SAT scores. My name is Rachel Cole, Director of Counseling Services at Carmel High School. And I'm very happy to introduce tonight our young men and women who've made a perfect score on the ACT or SAT at some point in their career during high school. Aiden Ushoti, Ditya Ayur, Tara Kandolu, Angela Lee, Raphael Lee, Justin Pulata, Monish Pandey, Kian Robinson, Logan Sandlin, Minsuk Sim, Yannick Singh, Harry Wang, Natalie Wells, Iris Yan, Brian Zhang, Leonardo Zhu. Congrats to all these students and their families. We're very happy for you. We know this required a lot of hard work and sacrifice from both students and parents. You should be very proud of this accomplishment.
Thank you, Ms. Cole. Next presentation is Carmel High School Girls Swimming and Diving State Champions. The presenter is Mr. Jim Inskeep.
Dr. Beresford, Mr. Kirshner, and members of our board, we once again thank you for the opportunity to be here in front of you virtually tonight to recognize two outstanding athletic programs, both of which captured state championships and recent competitions at the IUPUI Natatorium in February. Our first team that we're going to be recognizing this evening is the girls swimming and diving team. They won their 34th consecutive state championship, which is yet another national record for consecutive state titles in any sport all time. And I don't have to tell you what a wonderful achievement that is, but I always remind that this group and this group of seniors, it's the first time that many of them have had the opportunity to be in the various seats of the program as we go through that many 3-decade plus record for our program. So without further ado, a few comments about this group of Greyhounds. Carmel piled up 426.5 points at the state meet, which was the 4th most all-time in meet history, and they overwhelmed the field with their depth to win yet another team title. We had at least 2 participants in every individual event except in diving, and 3 in 3 other races. It is the 14th championship for Chris Plum, which is the most in state history in girls swimming and diving. Carmel won the opening event of the meet, the 200 medley relay, for the 12th straight year, and proceeded to sweep all 3 relays for the 7th time in the last 8 years. Sophomore Gretchen Luking won the 200 freestyle in 1 minute 47.50, and freshman Barrett Berglund took the 100 backstroke in 53 seconds, .41, to give us 2 individual winners. Members of those relay teams were the following. In the 200 medley relay, the team consisted of Barrett Berglund, Maggie Love, Meredith Berglund, and Colleen Duffy. The 200 free relay was made up of Colleen Duffy, Avery Williams, Gretchen Luking, and Madeline Chrisman. And the 400 free relay was made up of Gretchen Luking, Madeline Chrisman, Megan Chrisman, and Barrett Berglund. As always, we would like to thank the parents in both of these programs this evening, our girls swimming and diving and our boys swimming and diving program, for all the time spent supporting their children and supporting the program. We know that there are many early mornings driving in sometimes adverse weather and adverse conditions to get there, and our parents make up a huge part of the success of this program over the years. We want to thank all of them. We'd also like to thank, obviously, Chris Plum, our head coach, but all of the members of our coaching staff who give so much time and effort and dedication to making this program what it is today. We will now start by introducing the senior members of our girls swimming and diving team, starting with Katie Bend, Meredith Berglund, Taylor Conley, Morgan Croning, Madeline Davis, Jessica Estabrook, Colleen Harless, Megan Hastings, Sarah Jarding, Vivian Crable, Sarah Mayung, Ria Patel, Sejal Parakshak, Michaela Sura, Megan Tester, and Avery Williams. Once again, congratulations to all of these senior members of the team, and congratulations on another state championship.
Thank you, Mr. Inskeep. And now we will turn back to Mr. Inskeep for a presentation of the Carmel High School Boys Swimming and Diving State Champs.
Our next recognition this evening is our boys swimming and diving state champions. At the end of February, the Greyhounds took home their 6th consecutive state championship in boys swimming at the IUPUI Natatorium. It was also the 20th overall state championship for the boys swimming program as well. The Hounds got off to a fast start, winning the first 3 events and breaking 2 state records during those events. Carmel went on to win 6 of the 12 total events and set 5 total state records. After helping Carmel win the 200 medley relay and setting a new state record with a time of 1 minute 27 seconds, .94, senior Jacob Mitchell and Wyatt Davis went on to capture the 200 freestyle and the 200 individual medley, respectively. Davis's title in the 200 IM broke a 10-year-old record as well, finishing the event in 1 minute 44 seconds, .17. However, the two did not stop there. Wyatt Davis went on to win the 100 backstroke for the 4th time, breaking the state record and becoming the most decorated swimmer in IHSA history with a time of 45 seconds, .88. Mitchell finished the 500 freestyle in 4 minutes 14 seconds, .68, giving him the title for the 3rd straight year and breaking the record he set last year. The two helped Carmel win the final event of the day, the 400 freestyle relay, which marked the 5th new record of the day with a time of 2 minutes, 56 seconds, .36. Members of the 200 medley relay champions were Wyatt Davis, Ryan Malicki, Griffin Hadley, and Jake Mitchell. Again, that was a state record time. And members of the 400 freestyle relay state champions were Jake Mitchell, Gus Rothrock, Griffin Hadley, and Wyatt Davis in 2 minutes, 56 seconds, .36, yet another state record. Head coach Chris Plum won his 6th straight state championship leading the Greyhounds. It was his 23rd overall state championship as a coach, and that ties him for the most in IHSA history by any head coach, tying him with former cross country and track head coach from Carmel, Chuck Keppen. We will now start by introducing our senior members of the team. JT Curcio, Wyatt Davis, Brandon Edwards, Winston Foltz, Daniel Hall, Carter Hyam, Nolan Kopp, Jacob Mitchell, Griffin Seaver, and Carson Young. Jake Mitchell went on to become the first Mental Attitude Award winner from Carmel High School following the conclusion of the state meet. Mitchell is a decorated swimmer, winning IHSA titles in the 200 medley relay, 200 freestyle, 500 freestyle, and the 400 freestyle relay. He was also a member of the state record holder in the 200 medley relay, the 500 freestyle, and the 400 freestyle relay. He has been a part of the state title teams all 4 years of his career and also set numerous other records outside of the pool in club sports. He is the son of Michael and Tina Mitchell and will attend the University of Michigan to study biochemistry and swim for the Wolverines. Thank you very much, and we appreciate your recognition of these Greyhounds.
Well, thank you again to all the presenters and congratulations to the students. I know normally Dr. Beersford would lead them in a state champ or something. I caught him with his mouth full, but I'll give him the floor if he wishes to say anything, or he can wait till his superintendent report.
Oh, I've always got something to say, but I've really missed our recognitions. It's been real tough since we haven't been able to meet in person. So even though it was virtual, it was nice just to see their faces and to acknowledge the great work our kids are doing these days. And don't get me wrong, these kids work hard, and these coaches put in a lot of hours to help and to train them and get them where they need to be and give them the support that they need. But sometimes I think, well, we may take for granted that they just walk in with a lot of talent and just do their thing. But this is years and years of work, and a lot of them have started out in the Carmel Dads Club and or in the swim club since they're little bitty kids, and then they've come to this level where I wouldn't be surprised if a couple of those swimmers might be Olympians of one day. So just congratulations to all the kids, and yeah, I would have them all gather up and we'd count to 3 and say state champs. So 1, 2, 3 state champs. Well done.
Thank you. Next on the agenda, we have public comment. Since we're holding this meeting in compliance with Governor Holcomb's order, the public comment guidelines and bylaw 0167.3 have been modified for this remote meeting. Community members were permitted to submit written comments by completing the public comment form between noon and 5 o'clock today. We received 9 responses to the public comment form for the school board meeting tonight. All the comments were related to the change in the school day recommendation, which we will be receiving later in this meeting. Comments were received from Lori Brooks of 13215 Dunwoody Lane, Carmel, Jeff Kapke of 10440 High Grove, Carmel, Yvonne Sullivan of 14044 Mississinawa Drive, Carmel, Ryan Winko of 1398 Twin Lakes Circle East, Carmel, Vesper Miller of 5112 Oriole Drive, Carmel, Lisa Hussman of Carmel, Indiana, Carrie Ahrens of 1187 Crossfield Court, Carmel, Carolyn Wyatt of 329 2nd Avenue, Northeast Carmel, and Aiden Ascoti of 1456 Scar Lake Court. Thank you all for your comments. Instead of actually reading your comments into the minutes, The comments have been shared with the board and they will be posted as part of our summary of the meeting that will get posted after this meeting. We also received a number of emails on this topic. At the end of Dr. Beresford's recommendation on this topic, he will share with the public a way that they can provide comments on this topic so that the board gets them in one organized source. Next, we move to consent. For consent, we have a number of things on the consent agenda. On April 8th of 2020, I reviewed administrative matters and approved payroll claims in the personnel report for the period of March 15th, 2020 through April 7th, 2020. The personnel report for April 7th, 2020, claims for March 15th, 2020 through April 4th, 2020, and payroll for March 15th, 2020 through March 28th, 2020. As part of the consent agenda, the board is going to retroactively ratify those actions. The board is also approving the following consent items this evening: the personnel report, the claims report, payroll, the minutes of our workshop session from March 9th, 2020, and the minutes from our regular session for March 23rd, 2020. May I have a motion to approve the consent?
So moved.
Thank you, Pam. In a second.
Second.
Thank you, Lynn. We'll move to discussion. I will go in roll call. Katie, any questions?
Not at this time.
Thank you. Lynn, any questions?
No questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Layla, any questions?
No, thank you.
Thank you. Pam, any questions?
No, I do not.
Thank you. We will now vote. As I call your name, please either state yes or aye if you are voting in favor of the motion, or no or nay if you are voting against the motion. Katie?
Yay.
Lynn?
Aye.
Layla?
Aye.
Pam?
Aye.
Thank you, and I vote aye. Consent passes unanimously. Thank you. Next, we will move to discussion items. First item we have is a presentation from Dr. Beresford on changes to the school day.
Thank you, Mr. Kirshner. But before we jump into that, I did want to point out that when we passed the consent agenda, we did pass a very important retirement of one of our employees, and Bruce Wolfe, who's better known as Wolfe, and is currently the assistant athletic director at Carmel High School, is retiring this summer after 40 years with Carmel Clay Schools. He started as a science teacher at Carmel High School in the fall of 1980. He had graduated from Carmel High School, and so return to his alma mater was always special for him. And although it looked a little different now than it did then, now he's very highly successful teacher and coach. He was the defensive coach for the football team through the 80s and the early 90s when the Greyhounds won 4 state championships during his time on the staff with then head coach Jim Belden. He also gave significant contributions to the baseball program. He was the assistant coach and later on the head coach of our baseball team. And then he entered the athletic office working as the assistant athletics director. And during his time in the position, he's seen the growth and participation by over 100%. And the addition of many programs. And one of those programs that were added really is his direct contributions to Champions Together and our unified sports programs. And he's put Carmel at the leading edge in the state and the nation for inclusion in education-based athletics. And if you ever get a chance to go to Unified Track or any the flag football, any of those events, it's really a special thing for both the athletes and then their typical peers that are working with them. So he's a consummate worker, great communicator with student athletes. He's leaving us with some big shoes to fill. But that's how you know when someone's done their job well done. And I'm stealing a lot of words from Mr. Inskeep, but I will share a little bit of what I shared with Wolfe when I found out. Now, when he said announced his retirement, I contacted him and I told him, unfortunately, we're going to have some problems with your paperwork. I said, as the board of school trustees, you guys trust me to, and to make it, a priority that we take all the actions necessary for the care and benefit of the students that we serve. And so based on that, I told him in good faith, I can't accept his retirement because it's clearly not in the best interest of the students we serve. And then I found out you really can't do that. So you can't keep people from retiring. So Dr. Ostrike, would have, took care of that for me. So after 40 years of service, Wolfe has been the dad, a coach, a counselor, a cheerleader, and general positive influence for thousands, and I mean that, thousands of Greyhounds. He's played a huge part in making inclusion part of the culture here at Carmel High School, and he's certainly earned the time off. So we offer our greatest congratulations to Bruce Wolfe and best wishes on his next adventure. So didn't want to let that one slip through without talking to throwing a little love to Wolfe for all the good work he's done for over the years. So now we'll move into our item for discussion. I'm going to share my screen here, and hopefully I'll be successful. Okay. All right, before I get started, I want to just address just a few questions that, I think really as an administrative team, we wrestled with them. And then also some of the public have brought these same topics to our attention. And first one is probably why make this recommendation now? With the this pandemic crisis that we're in, and is the timing right? And to be honest with you, there's good arguments on both sides of that decision making. On one side, we know it's good for kids to be in a routine and to have a normal routine, and really that's one of the things that makes it tough on a lot of kids in the setting that we're in right now, is because they're out of their routine. And I respect that opinion, because there is a lot of validity to keeping a regular schedule. So jumping into a different schedule next year, the thought process, that might not be a good thing. The flip side of that is, in making some of this recommendation, a lot of those things are to support kids' mental health and to support, a lot of the struggles they may be going through right now by having, a later start time, or by adding a little time for more social emotional learning, that sort of thing. And so, I had a parent that sent me an email, and one thing she sent, first off, she sent it was saying, make sure, I haven't heard anything. Are you going to make a recommendation on that? And she said, I don't think there'll ever be a better time to do this than first semester next year, because I can tell right now my son, who is in middle school or high school, is the extra sleep, he's doing better, based on that rest. And so and when it got down to the decision making on that, it was that we want to do all we can to support in some of these this recommendation that would support kids in that in that situation when we're coming back to school. And so that was what that was. That was some of the topics that we wrestled with in making that decision. Another thing we wrestled with, should we do this next year, or should we wait till the following year when we're going to do redistricting and, kind of just do all the changes in one big swoop? And we kind of wrestled that one back and forth as well. Thought process on that is, do you have a lot of change at one time, or is it better to have a little change next year, get used to the new time schedule if that's the way the decision goes, and then have another new piece the second year? And obviously the recommendation, the decision making on that was, let's break it into pieces rather than doing something a big huge change. And then finally, common topic, and I even asked the question myself, we're doing pretty good. I mean, our Carmel Clay Schools students perform at a very high level, and why make changes if things are going well, and that sort of thing. And when it came right down to it on that is, we've got kids that, we're seeing anxiety and depression, increasing. We're seeing our younger kids that are struggling with regulating their behavior. A lot of things that we we're trying to put layers in place. These changes play right into that. And so the idea is, if we see a problem coming, we don't want to wait and react to it after it becomes a bigger problem. And at the end of the day is if these changes are intended to help kids, why would we wait? So that's kind of the at least 3 points that I wanted to get on the table as we get started. Just to do a little background on the process, this process actually began in the school year 2017-18 and was part of the elementary program evaluation. So this is actually the 4th year we've been on this journey. And last year when I came on board, we did a study review of that program evaluation. And in the review of that finding, we decided that we would create a presentation to the school community so that everybody would be informed about the whole topic of it. And then, and if you recall, that's when we put a website up with a lot of information and the research accompanied a lot of frequently asked questions. We put up a video. If you remember, that was the video that I made with the busy hands and the white background, a lot of drawings. And then the idea behind that was to inform the public and inform our stakeholders about what the research is and what we're talking about. And then at the end of that, we set out to do a feedback study. So we sent information out so people could fill out and give feedback on that presentation. And the idea behind that was to inform first and then get feedback afterwards, because we don't want people to be uninformed in giving us feedback. So that was the idea behind that. And then just in November of 2019, I presented to you that feedback study and the results of that through a lot of work by Dr. Rhonda Peterson and the CIA staff who went through that feedback and developed themes out of that, and I presented that to you and on November 11th. At that time, I postponed a recommendation because we had some meetings with transportation personnel and drivers, and we weren't confident that we knew enough to be able to answer the question, what would be the extent of the impact on transportation, if we changed to that schedule. I've also met with Carmel Teachers Association multiple times, and to get more feedback from teachers as well. So that brings us to today. And I wanted to fill you in where I left off, which was with transportation. And what happened was the transportation department went through and actually did the routing process that we typically do in the summer, and started the routing process for the 2021 school year. And they did that based on this year's staffing. That means bus driver shortage and everything, and how we're doing transportation today, right now, or before school was closed. They took it all the way up to somewhere between 75 and 85% completion. So we've got a really solid idea, solid information that we're working on. And the recommended time schedules will work, with our transportation and busing system. Now, one of the concerns was loss of bus drivers. And in looking at that, there will be some loss of drivers due to the schedule change. Right off the bat, we have 5 or 6 staff members. I think a couple of teachers and some IAs that will drive in the morning and then go to work. So we're going to definitely lose those. And then there was a lot of conversations around some people that schedule may not allow them to drive or only drive one route instead of like a morning and not a morning and evening or something like that. On those, we just don't know we can't know that definitively, and because it's really more of a case-by-case basis. So based on these times, we just have to see what people can work out and what they can't. So that's where we left off with the reason for the pause on the 11th. We have formed a transportation task force that's led by Dr. Ostrike and Mr. McMichaels, and they pulled together a pretty big group along with our new assistant transportation director And they're going to be looking at all aspects of driver recruitment, with the goal being that we'd have adequate number of drivers and maybe even more, and then be able to eliminate the double routing that none of us are really happy about. So that brings us to the actual recommendation. And the recommended changes, there's 3 of them. And the first one is to change the time for our secondary schools, Carmel High School and the middle schools. And that recommended change is to start school at 8:45 a.m. and then end the day at 3:45 p.m. Now, what that is that's an hour later for the middle schools, and it's 55 minutes later for the high school. And both of those are within all the studies recommended 8:30 or later for the starting time for adolescents. So, so that is the recommendation for that timing. Second recommendation is for elementary schools to start at 7:50 a.m. and end at 2:50 p.m. That 7:50 is 15 minutes earlier than they currently start, like this school year. And the reason for that was to provide adequate time in between the start of the elementary and the start of the high school and secondary routes, because the buses have to do the elementary routes first and then get to the secondary routes. But that's the increase. And that's also a 30 minutes longer, a 30-minute longer school day than we currently have. The third recommendation is a district-wide 40-minute late start day, and days that we would do that twice a month approximately for teacher professional development. The reason it's approximately is because sometimes on short months we won't have two late starts. We might just have one, on some of the vacation months. And that is it. Those are the 3 major recommendations. Now, just to give you a little background, and all of this is on our website with a lot more information, but just to highlight some things, why do we want to change the secondary times and make them later? And I'm not going to read all of this, but the American Academy of Pediatrics, the American Psychological Association, the list is longer than what's on this slide, all recommend that adolescents will it really meets their developmental needs to start school no earlier than 8:30, and later is probably better. The reason, the basis that the studies have shown is that anybody that's done junior high, who teaches junior high, knows that puberty changes a teen. And one big part that it changes is the circadian rhythm, which is that sleep-wake cycle that repeats every 24 hours. And the shift causes them to be more alert at night, which means they have a hard time getting into deep sleep in the evening till late. And then they are in a deeper sleep in the later morning hours. And so the whole idea that the change is to match up with that circadian rhythm. Research also indicates that kids need more sleep just because of their physical growth and adolescent brain development. And there's a lot of concern about the lack of sleep among teenagers because it affects their mental health, their physical health, their academic achievement, and also safety. So that's kind of the why of it. And then we want to just one more time review the benefits. So what the studies show is that the benefits of this is decreased rates of adolescent depression, anxiety, obesity, drug, and alcohol use. Overall performance and really anything, academics, athletics, the works. Increased attention in class, less falling asleep, better attendance, better cognitive function and decision making, and then even fewer automobile accidents and risk-taking behaviors, fewer discipline referrals. And so that is, a kind of a quick review of what those changes, that secondary change was all about. Now I'll move to the elementary changes. The elementary school day would be recommended to, like I said, begin 15 minutes earlier and end at 7:50 and end at 2:50. This is a 30-minute increase from the current school day. So it's a 30-minute longer day. And the plan is to use the extra time for 15 minutes of that time to be added to the academic block. So teachers can use them for more innovative experiences for kids. And really, it's a teacher's choice, as to what you want to do. A big part of this comes from wanting to decompress that day because it's a very, very full day. The other 15 minutes would be added to our current 15-minute recess that we have each day that would create a 30-minute recess block for students. And the idea behind unstructured play is well documented in a lot of studies about that, how important that is. And that would lengthen that, would double, our current recess time for that unstructured play. So why? And I shared this slide just because I love this slide, because it talks about a lot of things that are really good for our elementary kids. That's not to say that these aren't happening during the school day now, but like I said, it's a very compressed day. And I think what our thought process on it is, if we added that time, we could have more of this. What are some of the benefits? More opportunities for STEM and STEAM activities, and you can kind of go through that list. There's an unstructured play again. Student choice is important, and giving them times to choose some things they want to do. Social emotional learning is something we're trying to incorporate and find space for. One of the ones I think is compelling, just time to breathe, in the transition from going one thing to another thing to another thing. And maybe some time for students to collaborate more. And so those are some of the benefits that we could see this providing a little more time for. Third part of the recommendation is for district-wide late start twice a month. And to kind of explain a little more detail about what that would be like is that it would just be we would advertise the dates and do a lot of reminders, but twice, 2 days a month, the buses would run their routes 40 minutes later. And while we're on that delayed schedule, the teachers across the district would be collaborating. And so a late start day for the secondary schools, for Carmel High School and the middle schools, would start about 9:25 a.m. And then the late start days always end at the regular time. So 3:45 p.m. would be the ending time for that. And the elementary schools then would start 40 minutes later, and that would be 8:30 a.m. And again, they would end at the regular time. A note on that one is that we had a lot of concerns by families that a late start would put them in a bind for getting to work on time. Because we're starting earlier, this would actually be 25 minutes later than the current school day. So it's still 25 minutes, but it wouldn't be 40 minutes different from what you're doing right now, what the schedule is right now. And also because we've gotten that feedback, they're real concerned about what about we have to get to work, and there'll be childcare costs and that sort of thing. So we've been looking at it, and we believe we're confident that we can do no cost childcare and have that available for students in K through 8. So that would cover elementary and middle school for parents who may need just to drop their kids off at the regular time on those late start days. And we had some questions like who would watch the kids kind of thing. And we've got two options. Mr. McMichael's been talking with our before school care folks, and maybe we'll make a deal with them to cover that. Or also we may utilize our instructional assistants who would be available to help with that. Some of our instructional assistants work for the before school care, so that's not a new thing. So, but we feel like we're confident we can cover that. Okay. So why do late starts? And to explain it quickly, the purpose of the late starts to provide all of our educators, right now it's happening at the high school only, but this would provide all of our educators the opportunity to engage in collaborative professional development. Teachers will work in teams called professional learning communities. You might have heard PLCs mentioned a lot. This has probably been the most effective way for teacher growth and to really move the needle is getting teachers together in these professional learning communities and work together. They use that time to review current student data, so that's really to meet these needs of the kids that the kids have. Educational research indicates collaborative environments typically see higher student achievement, and usually it's a highly productive work environment. So what's it going to cost? And the cost of this change we were estimating it right at $336,000 a year. And that's the estimated cost to pay elementary instructional assistants and also our front office staff and any other hourly workers who will be working the additional 30 minutes a day. Shortening the high school and middle school day, I didn't mention that, but this change does include shortening the middle school day by about 20 minutes and the high school day by about 15 minutes. Most of that time will be eliminated by extra time that's in that school day that's non-instructional. We're not prepared at this point in time to be able to make an estimate on what the savings might be of that, because we'd really need to take a deeper dive into seeing what there's a lot of people that do a lot of work, and we'd really have to take a deep dive to figure that out. But that's what the financial impact would be in this proposal. So in review, the three changes are there. And in closing, I would just say that we believe that this proposal is in line with our Carmel Clay guiding principles. We've tried to keep students at the center of every decision, having a safe, non-threatening learning environment, keeping students' academic, social, emotional, physical needs addressed. Students and employees are held to high personal standards and expectations. We realize that high quality employees are vital to the success of our organization, and that effective teaching and learning requires continuous improvement. That's the late start piece. Diverse opportunities benefit students. Open and transparent communication maintains stakeholder trust. We've been as open as we possibly can with this, and have been reaching out to stakeholders for, well, it's been a 4-year journey. Parent community involvement enhances student learning. That's why we reached out to the families. And then finally, fiscal responsibility is fundamental to achieving our vision. So with that, I will hand it over to you all for discussion. And I've got the team here online who are ready to pitch in and answer questions as needed too. Thank you.
Well, thank you very much, Dr. Beresford, for that presentation. I know that there are questions from the board, so I'm going to just go kind of a roll call order from how we sit at our normal meeting. So that would be Katie, Lynn, Layla, and Pam. I will go through it once and then we can circle back again. So if you've got multiple questions, you can ask a couple and come back. And if you've got more questions, you'll get a second chance. So first, Katie, any questions?
I do. Hi, thank you, Mike. Are you able to hear me okay? Perfect. So my first question is regarding elementary school teachers. How will their day change with adding the 30-minute block? Are they required to stay in the building longer? Is it just more time with the actual students? What does that look like?
Amy, do you want to talk to them a little about, you created that block of what the schedule might look like for teachers?
Sure. So right now our teachers are in front of students for 6 hours and 30 minutes. And so 30 minutes of that is the students' lunch. So they would be in front of our students for a full 7 hours. In the past, we had teacher hours from 7:40 to 3:10, but last year we changed that where we no longer have those teacher hours. So their day would change in this 7-hour day. They would be in the building longer than they might be now. However, as you know, and when you pass by any elementary school, our teachers are there all hours anyway, but they would be required to be in front of students for 30 minutes more.
Thank you. My next question is in regards to recess. What are some of the initial thoughts regarding what about indoor recess? We live in Indiana, so there will be time where we aren't able to go outside.
Sure, and that is something as they're looking at recess with indoor recess, what will that look like if we have right now when we do indoor recess, they're in their classrooms. So that may continue, that they'd be in their classrooms. Obviously having a lot of different things for the students to do. A lot of times when they do indoor recess now, they use different makerspace pieces to really engage the students. They have lots of indoor recess games. So we would continue using those tools to engage our students so that they can have some downtime and have fun to connect with their peers.
Thank you. I just have a few more. Will this affect lunch times?
The lunchtime would still be the 30 minutes that the students have.
Okay. What about after school sports or after school activities? Are there going to be, is there thoughts on the guidelines for how late they can be, if they can be before school, which would negate the benefit of them being able to sleep more? Have there been discussions yet along that route?
Yeah, I can answer that one for you, Katie. Yes, one of the concerns was early on when we were looking into this is, well, what if the day starts later? Will just the coaches and will the sponsors just do everything before school, and then we'd lose the hour anyhow? And the answer to that was where we landed is something we're going to have to monitor. The teams that currently practice in the morning, swimming's a great example. We just saw they come in at 5 in the morning, and so I get a lot of advice from them on snowy mornings because they're on the roads about the same time I am. But we'll have to monitor that because, like, for instance, the swimmers, they'll still practice in the morning, but they'll be at 6 instead of 5, and but we will have to monitor that we don't start loading up that morning, and keep an eye on that.
Okay, thank you. And my last question for now is about that 15-minute block for teachers to use. That it is my understanding, and please correct me, that it's not necessarily where we want them to invent new curriculum. It's something where we want them to expand on the good things that they're already doing. If they wanted to do perhaps an experiment that they didn't have enough time for before, they have a little extra time. Is it really going to be kind of up to the teachers and in turn like the schools, kind of what they do with that?
Yes, they would, that 15 minutes would be not, as you said, to invent new curriculum, to really go deeper in their curriculum that they currently have. Because right now we just do not have enough time to fit it all in the way we would like to. So that might be, as you said, doing an inquiry project or doing a lab experiment. It might be spending more time in their literacy block. It'll vary based on the learning that's going on. It'll vary by classroom. It'll vary by day and year. It won't be a prescribed piece. And the other piece too, it'll really help them to have some more time for that social emotional learning piece, for those connections, those pieces that are so important for our students. A couple of years ago, you may remember that we extended the day because of a lot of snow days that we had. And the feedback that we got was it just gave kids time to breathe. It really gave them the time to build those connections with each other and not feel so rushed throughout the day.
Thank you. That's all for right now, Mike.
Thank you, Katie. Thank you, Dr. Dudley. Thank you, Dr. Beresford. Lynn, do you have any questions?
Yes, I have 2 questions here. And first question is that I remember the Carmel Teachers Association did a survey asking teachers about their opinions on changing secondary school start time and then extending 30 minutes. I remember there's a high percentage of elementary school teachers that did not support the extending 30 minutes for elementary school. And I want to see if there's additional discussions with the Carmel Teacher Association following the survey and what's the feedback after that. The second question is, Amy just shared that there will be quite flexibility for teachers, even daily changes here to how to use the 15-minute time. And I just wonder how much consistency we want at the building level or at a grade level. So like, is the grade, say first grade, will they still have the same time for recess, or you just allow teachers just to structure their day totally different every day? I just want to get an idea about how they work. If you allow flexibility, but still want to maintain maybe consistency for the grade, things like that. Thank you.
Dr. Dudley, do you want to address that, the second question? And then we've got Pete O'Hara with us, who's the president of the CTA, Carmel Teachers Association. And I don't know, Pete, is that something you might want to share a little bit about the feedback from the teachers? Appreciate Pete being here. We want to have a teacher's voice, in the meeting. But Amy, why don't you go ahead and answer that second question first?
Sure. So Lynn, the flexibility that I'm talking about is the flexibility that the teachers would have based on what their students need at the time. What would stay consistent is, for example, recess. All students would have that 30 minutes of recess. That wouldn't be flexible to say, we're only going to do 20 minutes of recess today. The other pieces that would be consistent and that are consistent right now are the curriculum. When we think about the curriculum at the first grade level, that curriculum, we have a guaranteed viable curriculum in all of our first grade classrooms. And that's to say that a student at Collegewood is receiving the same curriculum as a student at Prairie Trace. So those consistency, that is all consistent. But what is more flexible is the time students need to learn that curriculum. We have students across all 11 schools that have very differing needs, and some students learn things very quickly. Other students need a little bit more time. Other students need to come back to that information to learn that. So that's the part with the flexibility. But the consistency would be in their lunchtime would all be consistent, their recess time would be consistent, and the curriculum would be consistent as well.
Thank you.
Okay, Pete, I'm gonna put you on the spot. Is that okay?
That's why I'm here. The elementary teachers are passionately concerned about the extra time and the extended day. And I just got to tell you that since last week, when Dr. Beresford put the in the loop out, the emails that I am getting are about 15 to 1 of teachers. And again, they're passionately concerned about it. And they're concerned about kids. And they're concerned about the extra time and how the extra time affects kids. And I think probably some of you have received emails stating the same concerns. So yeah, that's just something that they're very concerned about it. And very passionate about it, and very passionate about the fact that it's how it affects kids.
Thanks, Pete. Appreciate you sharing that and giving us a straight scoop.
Thank you. Thank you for the information. So I just wondering, since there's a concern here from teachers and they are uncertain about benefits to kids, are we planning to do any follow-up study? And can the board hear about, how it's implemented maybe after a semester, after a year, to see what teachers think and then what students think about it?
I would say to do any more studies at this point in time, I think we've surveyed a lot. We've had a lot of discussions. I think we've kind of turned every detail of this topic, one way, down. If you're asking me if it was implemented, would we review, how it's going? Absolutely. Just like we do with anything that we would implement. Well,
yeah, that's what I suggest.
Check the effectiveness of it.
Not again investigating should we do it or not, but just after we do it, how it goes. We want to hear how it goes. Thank you.
Yeah.
Well, thank you, Lynn. Thank you, Pete. I do believe Dr. Beresford, correct me if I'm wrong, that at the end, we will provide a way for teachers and families to share their thoughts. Obviously, today is just a recommended in discussion. So we have received a lot of input from teachers and and some students and parents just in the last couple of days, and we're open to hearing more of that. Layla, do you have any questions?
I do, and it sort of stems on what Lynn had asked and the other previous questions. Thank you, board members, because I thought they were great. What I wanted to better understand or get a little more information about, excuse me, is the conversations that the administration has had with the teachers and the type of response, because we as a board have received several emails of our very passionate elementary teachers, but we've also received emails from parents who support. Some are a little concerned, but in conversations that I've had personally with people reaching out to me directly, there's been a lot of support as well. And I've got teachers that are on both sides of the fence. So what I'd like to better understand is what has the administration done to have some of those conversations, deeper conversations with the teachers to solicit not only feedback, but understanding.
I can, yeah, I guess I could start with when we did do that feedback study, we, did a whole group on just teachers, and we divided that into elementary teachers and secondary teachers. And I shared that, that information with you. And that was a, do you want to do, this was not, that was not a, instrument where we said, do you think we should do this or not? It was about the, the information I just shared with you about the, the benefits and the studies and all those pieces. And we got pretty favorable results on those topics about, about that research. And then, but that was very different from the feedback that Pete and his group surveys were. And Pete, you want to talk about I think you did 2 different surveys, didn't you?
Yeah, we did one early on, and then we did one just a few months ago. And they were a lot more pointed, and maybe they weren't written the best, but they were good for us. And I like to call my last one a poll, because I needed to get the pulse of where we were. And that's where we really found out that the elementary teachers were so upset, especially about the extended day. Middle school teachers were pretty much on board, and it was split at the high school, quite frankly. But as time goes on, I think we see more and more at the high school level, at least more and more support for this because of the sleep. We know about that teenage kids need more sleep, and the other thing I want to say about that is that Dr. Beresford and I have talked about this a lot. And we have not always agreed. We have not always disagreed, but we listen to each other, and we have been partners in this. And, I have done my best to represent the teachers and the feelings of the teachers, and to take back as much information as I could and as I can. And, it's been a group effort. It really has been. So teachers have been involved all the way.
I'll second that. And like when Pete's group did their surveys, we met with his leadership to go over those and get the results of that, and the second one as well. And also he invited me to a meeting with the entire all the CTA representatives from all the buildings, Pete?
All the buildings, and it was the last day. It was our last day before we found out about this not having school anymore. And it was we were there for 3 hours.
Wow. Okay.
And we just discussed everything, and everybody put everything on the table. It was great session.
It really was. It was that's when I'll throw a compliment back. Working with Carmel Teacher Association is awesome. We can have great discussions, and even whatever side of the table you're on, and it's always respectful, and it's always looking out for the best interests of our kids.
Thanks, Pete. Thank you, Dr. Beresford. That's all I have for now, Mike. Thank you.
Thank you, Layla. Thanks again, Pete. Pam, do you have any questions?
Yes, I do. Thank you. First of all, I had a question earlier, wondering if we could leave the elementary day the same and go ahead and change the high school and the middle school.
Yes, as far as like changing the time of day for the secondary schools, and we could, that can be done. We'd have to think through as far as the time changes go. We could do that, because eliminating a half an hour would not mess up transportation. It may actually. Roger, do you want to weigh in on that a little bit? I know you looked at that.
Yes, if I understand the question, if we had the secondary school start at 8:45, it shortened their day, and they were out at 3:45, and then had the elementary day start 55 minutes before that, which in this example would be 7:50 as was recommended. If we did not extend the elementary day, then obviously they would end their day a half hour earlier, which at the end of the day, that would give us an additional 30 minutes to, as far as running the transportation system, which in today's world of being short of bus drivers, that would actually be a benefit in terms of giving us more time to run the elementary routes before the high school day was finished. So what we would not be able to do would be to continue to have the elementary day inside of the secondary day.
No, that's not what I was asking.
Right, I didn't think it was.
Right.
So assuming we would flip the bell times, if you will, but not extend the elementary day, that would be the result.
Okay. Also, I have a huge question about prep time, and I know that we weren't going to talk about, or that wasn't something that you were going to investigate right now, but prep time for teachers. Eliminating collaboration, I figure we're still having specials at 50 minutes a day. Is that correct?
I have to defer to Amy on that. Are we?
So in the 7-hour day, yes, specials would still be 50 minutes, correct?
Okay. So if there's 50 minutes a day, 5 days a week, that means a teacher would have 250 minutes per week. If we add in recess, which is 30 minutes per day, or I am assuming 3 days, because I remember the days I had to have recess duty and I would have to have it twice a week. So that would give me 3 days of prep. So that's 90 minutes. And that's not counting days for indoor recess when you wouldn't get those days. So that would give a teacher 340 minutes a week, except for late start weeks. So I'm a little concerned about the prep time issue that's coming up when the high school, the middle schools, and the elementary schools are all going to be equal in time period. So
Yeah.
I would like to see that discussed prior to a vote, if possible, please.
Yeah, that's a separate issue. And that's why I did not add that to the proposal or the recommendation. In order to discuss prep time and those kind of changes, we would need to have probably a separate and pretty detailed conversation with the Carmel Teacher Association and look and how that would do in order to provide prep time to teachers while recess is going on. We would have, somebody has to watch the kids. And so we'd have to determine if it would be like a rotation system, like what you're talking about, Pam, or if we would hire an instructional assistants or rework the schedule of instructional assistants to cover recess. But we have to make sure we have solid supervision So that's why that's not part of the this recommendation. It's a lot of detailed work, and really we didn't want to muddy up this presentation by by trying to sort all that out. And that has budgetary additional budgetary impact, so we'd have to do a lot from that.
That's my next question. The initial cost that we had put in for this was, and that was back in December, was $477,325 would be the cost for this to go into place. If I figured my figures correctly, I was only counting 6.5 hours for 360 minutes a week or a day. So if we had recess at each school, which is say 5 grade levels, 30 minutes each, that's 150 minutes of recess that would have to be covered. So that's like 42% of a full day of 360 minutes. So the IAs per building, you'd have to have 2, because we usually had 2 on recess duty when we were out, at least 2 teachers. So that would be 22 total IAs. And I was figuring that was like $147,840 more. So the total cost I came up with was about $483,000 in addition to if we do hire IAs to cover recess. And also thinking ahead, if we left the elementary school day the same and spent the same amount of money, that would be 7.5 teachers that we could hire to help cover and maybe make class sizes a little smaller next year and help cover what help the kids recoup from what they went through this year.
Did you want us to respond to that, Pam, or?
I'm just giving you some information that I have. And my last question is, is the state budget. I know in 2009, 2010, they took over $3 million away from the school system because they had a lack of state funding. So do we know, or have we any idea of where the state funding is going to be going, since we've been spending money on the coronavirus and all of the additional expenses that have been going with that? And I know there's a lack of state income coming in now. So I'm wondering, do we have any idea of what we might be facing next year and maybe into the next 2 years?
Yeah, Roger, do you want to talk to that a bit?
Yeah, the short answer would be we don't know, and I don't think anybody knows. We could anticipate that that the economy clearly has been significantly impacted, and that likely will have an impact on sales and income tax, which is where the revenue comes from the state formula. Looking back to 2008 and 9, the circumstances are different in a number of ways. One is that the state has I believe, and I think most people believe, a very healthy rainy day fund. They have about 13% cash balance, which is almost double what we maintain. And so hopefully if this is not a rainy day, I don't know what would be. And so the question will be is, will the state legislature look to use rainy day funds, and if so, how much, and what might the loss be in sales and income tax when people get back to work and we're not locked down? They'll start to get better insight, but the assumption is not every job that was out there will continue to be out there. So we just don't know what that financial future will bring, and couldn't guarantee that there wouldn't be a shortfall as there was previously. But but locally, we're in pretty solid shape in terms of our financial stability. And you'll recall in 2009 that financially we were not particularly hurt by the shortfall because we were able to transfer cash balance, our own cash balance from our debt service fund over into our, at the time, our general fund. And then right after that, we had a successful referendum. And so it's also really impossible to anticipate what the flexibility might be and what the choices might be. There very well, for example, could be a relaxation of how the local money is used as far as our debt service cash balance and other cash balances for that matter. And then and Carmel Schools also maintains a cash balance, not specifically for this purpose, but for unanticipated financial challenges, and certainly this would qualify.
Okay, I have one more question, which I just thought of, sorry. So if the elementary day remains the same and starts at 7:50 like we've proposed, that means the cost that we have projected that this will cost over and above what we're already spending, that will not happen.
That's correct.
Yeah, there would be no change in the hourly workday at that point.
Okay, so the 336,000 we would not face that as an expense.
Correct.
Okay, that's good. Thank you.
I might put that into perspective just because it's $336,000 is a lot of money for most of us, and sometimes it's difficult to understand the scope of the Carmel Schools budget, which is well over $100 million. And so again, not to minimize it in any way, but 336,000, to put that in some type of a comparison, is about 1/3 of 1% of our salary and benefit costs.
Yeah, but still, it's about 6 teachers, right?
Yeah, I'm not minimizing it. That's, again, we have almost 1,000 teachers, and I know all of us would appreciate having, any more, whether it's 6 or 1, but I thought it was worthwhile to have some comparison of the money, because the numbers that we deal with are so large that for many people it's hard for them to get their arms around the financial aspects.
Okay, thank you.
I'll remember that at negotiations next time, Roger.
I knew you would be.
Yeah, got to remember, we would never bring a recommendation if we weren't comfortable with what the funding of that would be, and that we wouldn't be able to handle that. And we are keeping an eye on the class sizes and those concerns as well.
Okay.
Thank you.
So could we possibly put an IA in all the classrooms, or in a lot of the classrooms, so that the teachers have additional help next year to help make up the deficit maybe that the children have from the end of this year? Just a thought.
Yeah, that would be something we'd have to evaluate. We'd have to have more of a learning plan than just throw bodies into classrooms. But right now, that's a good question going on with districts all over the state, is, what is the loss? And then is the loss, because kids are engaged, they are doing things, but we don't know if the gap is going to be huge or not. And as being a former classroom teacher, is every year the students come into your classroom and they're at all different levels. And that's kind of the art of teaching, is that you take all those different levels and you work with the kids in small groups or individually to bring them up, to the, to be prepared for the next level. And that's not an uncommon thing that goes on in our classrooms. But so, I don't know, it's hard for us to make an assumption that kids are going to be drastically behind the times come fall. But we have to be alert to that, and we have to assess that when we get our kids back in our classrooms, so we can work more effectively with them one-on-one. Would that be accurate to say, Dr. Dudley? Anything you want to add to that?
Yes, that would be accurate. Not knowing, we do have virtual learning going on, and soon you'll get an update on what is happening. But as Dr. B says, we're not going to know, what the effect of this is until we get our kids back into the building and get
Right. Okay, thank you very much.
Well, thank you, Pam. Thank you, Amy, Roger, Pete, Dr. Beresford. I said I would circle back. So Katie, do you have any more questions on this discussion?
Do excuse me. One of the things that I think, and we haven't touched on it too much, but I would be remiss, is the recess time. I know that when we did the elementary evaluation, that was a huge topic of discussion. And we had so many emails from parents, I'll say, pleading that they definitely wanted to see that more recess time. So I do think that that's something that that we should also make sure that I know we are considering it, but a topic of discussion that I do think that that is very important for our students. I just wanted to kind of make that comment there, is that with all these discussions, I know that there's lots of different recommendations, but I do think that that is an important one.
Absolutely.
Thank you, Katie. Lynn, do you have any additional questions?
No additional questions at this time. Thank you.
Thanks. Layla?
Yes, I do. And Katie, thank you for bringing that up about recess, because what I was going to go back to was that elementary school day program evaluation. And I was hoping Dr. Dudley could maybe touch on this. I do recall, although it's not in front of me, there were several recommendations, and one was additional time for inquiry for social studies projects, for science-related experiments. And that was one of the basic recommendations, I believe, because for two reasons. When we were looking at ISTEP scores, we saw a bit of a gap. And well, anyway, Dr. Dudley, could you just touch on that, please?
I am not seeing Dr. Dudley.
Okay, then Dr. Beresford.
I don't know the answer to that. Mostly because I was looking for Dr. Dudley. But could you? I'm sorry, Pam or Layla. Could you just share that question with me one more time?
Yes, the question is, during the elementary school program day evaluation, I believe one of the recommendations was to extend the amount of time that we need for inquiry for social studies and for science. And during that evaluation, it was my understanding that they reviewed ISTEP scores at the time, that there was a gap and we weren't making as great a strides. And so they felt as though if we had more time to dive deeper, the performance of our students and their academic growth might, be more positive.
Right. Yeah, I'm tracking with you now. Sorry, I was distracted.
That's
but,
okay.
Yeah, basically she was talking about the achievement gap.
Yes.
And we have some students that are gapping from different, different subgroups is what they call them. I don't like that term, but so the idea of having more, really the kind of the list of things that were on that, the benefits of having an extended 30 minutes of the day is that innovative, learning, more personalized learning, more student choice. And those are things that, have been cited as things that can help close those gaps. And what kind of interventions you can do with that, with those. I'm sure Dr. Dudley could speak more detailed to it, but that elementary evaluation was before I got here. And so I picked up just pieces of it as we've moved forward since I have been here.
Thank you.
All right.
Thank you. Circling back, Pam, any other questions? Okay, Pam, since I don't hear any other questions, Pam, I'll assume you're good.
You're on mute. Hang on just a second. Colleen, can you unmute Pam?
Oh, there I am.
There you go.
Okay. Okay. No, no further questions. Thanks.
All right. We're gonna have to go to sign languages here or something.
I know.
Yeah.
All right, well, so thank you. I think we will have a way for teachers and students and parents to submit comments after this meeting. I'm not sure how it'll be shared, but
Yeah, I'll share that right now, Mr. Kirshner, if that's okay.
Go for it, please.
Yeah, this is the last slide. First off, I want to say that issues like this can really sometimes be divisive, and the communication is so important. And I've really been impressed by the way our teachers and our community have been communicating with one another. They've been on both sides of the issues, and that kind of debate is healthy, I think, for organizations. And it's not been like personal attacks and all those kind of things, which is kind of popular these days on social media. And so I'm very proud of our teachers and our community members, who, although they disagree, they're being polite and respectful about that. And it's just another example of why this community is as strong as it is, because it's okay to agree to disagree, and to have spirited conversations. And I think that's what really makes organizations stronger. So we know that this is an important issue to a lot of people. So we wanted to have a way that the community could share their opinions with the board, as we'll bring this back in May for a decision. And so what we've done is on the screen there, you do have a link, and that link will also be in the board update that will be emailed to all the families in the district. And there's QR code there, and both of those will take you, if you want to send a comment to the board, will take you to basically an electronic form where you can fill it out and then put your thoughts into it. And then that will be the most efficient way for the board to see everyone's comments that way. A lot of times when people just send email after email, your inbox gets pretty clogged up, and it's hard to keep it all straight. So this is a way that we will use to get information to the board, so that it'll all be in one spot, and it will be easy to access for all of you board members. So, and again, we'll have this, on the board update that will be sent out later this week. But we did want to make a way for any community member, staff member, anybody that wants to weigh in, pro or con, whatever side you're on, it's no problem. And we always get some meaningful information when we do these types of things. So with that, I'll conclude this recommendation. Thank you.
Thank you. But before you conclude, I see Dr. Dudley's back on. Do you want to go back to Layla's question, or?
Layla, do you feel like that was answered well enough, or would you like to ask Amy one more time?
Well, could we just ask Amy, if you don't mind?
No, absolutely. Go ahead.
Okay. Dr. Dudley, are you there?
I am. Sorry, my internet went out.
Oh, that's okay. One of the questions that I had, actually the only additional question I had, was during the elementary school day program evaluation, it was, and I apologize for not having it in front of me, but one of the recommendations was extending the school day, specifically, I thought, for social studies and science inquiry, that we felt like there was after all the evaluation happened and looking at I-STEP scores and just, I suppose, teacher and parent feedback, that having additional time in those areas was really important. Could you touch on that?
Sure. So one of the recommendations was to have additional time for specifically for inquiry, but also looking at STEAM and having more time to delve deeper into, so it may be an investigation that you might do in science, to have more time for that hands-on learning that sometimes gets missed when you're rushed. So it wasn't just for inquiry or just necessarily social studies and science, but it certainly stemmed around those pieces as well when you think about that content and those engaging activities that do sometimes take longer. And some, you're teaching the lesson and then now it's time to do the investigation and you have to get all of the materials ready, and that does sometimes take longer. So that was part of that program evaluation.
All right, thank you. Next, we have another discussion topic, materials adoption. The presenter is Dr. Dudley.
Thank you. So this evening, I'm bringing part one of our miscellaneous materials adoption for discussion. And next month, I will bring part two. This is the year that actually we had some pretty big adoptions that were to happen. But then as we went virtual, it was more difficult to have finish our literacy adoption pieces. So I will be bringing to you next month for discussion some pieces of literacy adoption, but I'm certainly not going to be bringing the entire literacy adoption. We decided to put that on hold for next year just because of our circumstances right now. But this evening, the materials that I am bringing for discussion for materials adoption stem from several high school courses. The first one in Family Consumer Science, our Educational Professionals 2. The change for this material is because this is a dual credit course through Butler University, and they are recommending a new textbook to be used in this course. So that is the textbook that they're recommending for this dual credit course. The math, you can see the math, the science, and the wellness, those are all new courses. Those are all IB courses that we added to our program of studies. And so we need to adopt materials for those. And the exciting part is, as you can see, the different IB courses, the science and the wellness are new IB courses. The math, the IB changed the curriculum. And so that is the reason for the new materials for the math, IB, SL, and HL. But for the environmental systems and the sports and exercise science, those two are new courses that we just adopted through the program of studies. And so we need to adopt those materials. And then the last course in performing arts for the piano and electrical keyboard, that is a new book that the high school teacher is suggesting to use for that course, and we've not adopted new materials for that course in several years. So those are the courses for materials adoption that I'm bringing this evening for discussion.
Thank you, Dr. Dudley. This time I'll go in the opposite order. If you're not ready, Pam, you can pass and I'll come back. But any questions, Pam?
No, I think these are really great courses. They looked very interesting, and it's neat to see that we have so many IB courses being offered. And I like seeing the adoption of the performing arts as well. Thank you.
Thank you. Layla, any questions?
No, no, thank you.
Thank you. Lynn?
No questions, thank you.
Thank you. Katie, any questions?
No questions.
All right, thank you. Well, that is the end of our presentations for today. Next, we will move to reports. The first report is the student data report, which, as hinted to before by Dr. Dudley, is on a virtual learning update. So Dr. Dudley.
Thank you. Can you see my screen there?
Yes, we can.
Perfect. Great. So believe it or not, we've just completed day 21 of our virtual learning journey that we have going on here. And I'd like to share an update on some of our successes and some of our challenges thus far. So starting with our access. So let's look at student access. So in order for our virtual learning to be successful, for students need to have that internet access. Obviously, they need to have access to devices. They need to have an understanding of how to navigate Canvas, which is our learning management system, as well as how to use Google tools to communicate their learning. So our social workers, our counselors, and our administrators reached out to families to ensure that they had internet access. And if the family did not, then the school personnel helped them to facilitate this access through various internet providers. And we were very fortunate that several internet providers in our area provided internet access for free for 60 days. And then some of them, after the 60-day period, they offered a very reduced cost to internet. And so we're excited to say that we were successfully able to help all of our families that were not previously connected to internet to get connected to internet during our virtual learning time. So our families also had the opportunity to check out mobile devices if they needed a mobile device to use at home. And some of our families needed maybe this to augment the devices that they already had at home. We also saw a surge in some device checkouts when older brothers and sisters came home from college and they were also doing online learning. And so we had another surge of some mobile devices. So far, we have checked out 2,526 Chromebooks for students to use at home. And to put that into context, you know, we have about 16,500 students and we have about 10,000 families. So that puts that into context of the numbers that have checked out those mobile devices. We're also providing ongoing support to our families on utilizing their Chromebooks and troubleshooting technical issues, as well as navigating Canvas, Google tools with information on our virtual learning website for families. We have a very robust website out there that has all kinds of tools for our students and our families to use. And they also have the opportunity to seek additional help by submitting a virtual learning support ticket. And so far, our technology and our curriculum teams have responded to 1,487 support tickets. And I just want to mention that they do that very quickly. The turnaround time is just amazing. Our technology team is just wonderful in the support that they give to not only our families, but then also our teachers in answering Kayako tickets. So our data does indicate that 100% of our students who use Canvas for their coursework has successfully accessed Canvas since we began virtual learning on March 18th. So we do know that our students do have the access to be able to use the tools for the virtual learning. So moving on, looking at another big piece in this puzzle is our communication. So in order to ensure success in our new reality, communication is essential. And communicating virtually with students and families can sometimes be challenging. As you can just see, I demonstrated that as my internet went out completely right before I was supposed to do my presentations. So we use Canvas, our learning management system, as our virtual learning hub for teachers to primarily communicate with students. So this is the tool that teachers use to put their announcements in Canvas each day that includes an explanation of the activities with the specific instructions, clarifications of when assignments should be completed and submitted, directions on where to go to find any necessary additional resources such as links, documents, and times when the teacher is available to answer questions. And these announcements are posted by 9 a.m. each day. Many of our teachers link videos of themselves explaining the expectations and the announcements to their students. And this is especially helpful in our elementary classrooms. One of the things we're seeing is a lot of videos. The teachers are doing mini lessons with those videos. And our teachers are really doing a fabulous job of collaborating together and working on developing those videos and then using each other. So for example, in first grade, a first grade student may see all first grade teachers doing different parts of the lesson. And so they're dividing and conquering and doing a fabulous job of that teamwork that our teachers are very much known for. So communicating with the parents and the guardians is also key, and our teachers are using traditional forms of communication that we've always used, such as newsletters, the phone, and email. And they're also adding, in our new virtual world, a virtual check-in meetings and virtual question and answer sessions with parents. This is specifically helpful in our elementary for our youngest learners, our kindergarten and first grade students. And we just had last week we had collaboration of our different elementary schools where our teachers in different grade levels had the opportunity to come together virtually and share the different tools that they're using. And many of our teachers did share, especially in kindergarten and first grade, where they're having these question and answer sessions or check-in meetings with parents to communicate. And they felt that that was very helpful. So the next piece of this is talking about our connections. And one of the biggest challenges in our new virtual environment is connecting with our students and helping our students to connect with peers. And we know that is so vital in their social emotional well-being, that they have those connections, and you need to have the relationships before any of that learning takes place. And so by using virtual video conferencing, our students have the opportunity to see their teachers as well as their classmates in a whole new light. They get a small glimpse into their home. And if they're lucky, they might get an opportunity to see the teacher's family, their children or their pets, as well as their classmates' families and pets. And so that has been an outcome that in the traditional classroom, you didn't always get to see other than maybe in photographs. So our teachers are utilizing many creative ways to connect with the students, and many teachers are hosting their virtual morning meetings where students interact with each other, sing a class song, express well wishes, play a short game, and these might be activities that are similar to what you might see in the classroom, but it's through virtual conferencing. Teachers are also, this is a great thing, and we have many teachers that were sharing they are doing these. They're hosting lunch bunch or chat and choose, where small groups of students have the opportunity to interact with the teacher and their peers and just connect on what's happening in their everyday lives. And that's such an important piece of them being able to see each other and talk with each other. And it's all on more of a social level. Teachers also have students create videos of themselves, maybe sharing a talent or an interest that they might have. So it might be a talent in building Legos, or an interest, a talent in dancing or playing the piano. And then they upload those videos into what we call Flipgrid. And the other students have the opportunity to view those. So they get to see their students, their peers doing many different things that they're interesting to them. Also, our teachers are offering virtual one-on-one meeting times with the students so the teachers can connect with the students individually. Because, our teachers miss seeing their students in person, and our students miss their teachers. And we keep hearing this over and over again, just how much they do miss being in the classroom each and every day. And they're so creative. Our teachers are so creative in helping ways to help our students to connect in that vital to our social emotional well-being for our students. And so we're just really thankful that our teachers keep trying new and different things to help them to connect. So looking at engagement, again, teachers are utilizing several different tools to virtually engage our students in active learning. And this is really a change. We have a lot of active learning that goes on in the classroom, but when you're thinking about building those lesson plans virtually, there's a lot of different strategies that they need to think differently about. So some of the things that our teachers are using is students might be assigned a discussion group in Canvas where a small group of students have a book club discussion, or they have an opportunity to solve a juicy math problem. Teachers use Padlet where students have an opportunity to share their responses in a full class discussion in real time. Students might be asked to upload a video of themselves reading a book, or they also might be figuring out a problem and thinking aloud. And then the teacher has the opportunity to come back and view that video and then share feedback with the students, and they can really see if the student understands the problem or if where their learning is breaking down, so the teacher can come back and share that, help that student to understand how to solve that problem. Teachers are using Google Forms that students fill out at the end of lessons so they can check for understanding, and they have a very quick exit ticket so they can plan their next lessons to know where the students are at and where they need to go next. We also have teachers engaging small groups of students in individual and also small group conferences to check in on learning. And some of our students are receiving one-on-one virtual instruction based on their needs. And some other examples are teachers are embedding small group challenges into lessons where students engage in friendly competition. They might be using tools such as Kahoot to have these competitions. And our teachers are creating those engaging virtual learning opportunities so that our students are continuing to learn. However, keeping the students engaged in learning in this new reality is challenging. And some students are thriving in this new environment because they love the opportunity to set their own schedule. They love that they can do their assignments on their own time because many of the assignments, the students can do them asynchronous where they're all doing them at different times. There are opportunities for them to come together as a group, but those are not required necessarily unless they're taking maybe an assessment at the secondary level. Other students are not thriving in this environment. They excel more with more structure in their day. And one of the things that they might be struggling with is learning how to manage their time in this new environment. And as I mentioned earlier, 100% of our students who use Canvas for their coursework have successfully accessed Canvas. However, only about 95% of our students are continuously staying engaged. And we want to make sure that all of our students are staying engaged. So our teachers, our administrators, our social workers, our counselors are all working tirelessly to ensure all of our students are engaging in that learning and not giving the students the opportunity to opt out. Typically when we're in regular session, usually this time of year, engaging our seniors in that coursework can be challenging. We are still seeing those challenges in engaging our seniors, but we're also seeing challenges of engaging other students in their coursework. And we don't want to give them the option to opt out. We still have several weeks of school left that we want to continue the learning. And so when teachers are noticing that students are not logging into Canvas or turning in the assignments, the first point of contact is that the teacher reaches out to the students and the parents through phone or email to ensure the students are understanding, they have the tools to make sure that the student is safe, make sure that find out what is happening and what supports they might need. And if the student needs additional support, then the teacher alerts the social workers, the counselors, and the building administrators to help to problem solve. In a small number of our cases, we've also utilized our SROs to do home visits to ensure the student safeties or just to check in on our students. So another important piece of this is collecting feedback. And collecting and utilizing the feedback has been essential in our virtual learning journey. And one thing we've heard from our teachers and our students is that everything seems to make much more time in our virtual learning environment. So collecting that feedback from our students and our parents on the amount of time it is taking the students to complete the assignments and then using that information to adjust has been key during this time. And it's also essential for teachers to provide concise, focused, and informative feedback to their students. teachers do this in a variety of ways to include written feedback, just as they traditionally might do in the classroom. And also in some cases, recording feedback of a video of the teacher sharing that feedback for the students. And the teachers are providing live feedback to students through one-on-one conferences or small group conferences as well. So our virtual learning journey has not been perfect, and we're continuing to learn along the way and to improve. However, you know, I've never been so proud of our entire school community and how well we've all persevered. I see perseverance daily in our students taking ownership of their learning and finding creative ways to connect with their peers and their teachers. I see perseverance in our teachers learning new strategies to actively engage our students in virtual learning. I see perseverance in our families supporting their children in virtual learning while juggling working from home and family life. I see perseverance in our social workers, our counselors, our instructional coaches, and our administrators in finding creative ways to support our students, families, and teachers in this new reality. And I see perseverance in our technology staff in tirelessly ensuring that all systems are working, and when a system fails, they quickly figure out the issue and get it up and running. And so despite all of the challenges that have been quickly thrown our way these past couple of weeks and the challenges that we know are yet to come, I know one thing is certain, that our school community will persevere. And so with that, I will answer any questions you might have.
Well, thank you, Dr. Dudley and Dr. Beresford, for this very timely and important update. I know it's a concern for all of those on the board, as well as parents and community. You know, we have, I think we've demonstrated that we've all stepped up to the challenge. Again, I just want to thank the technology department, teachers and administrators, parents and families for helping their students learn in this new environment. I will open it up to questions. I'm going to start with Lynn, and then we'll continue in the normal rotation. And Lynn, if you want us to skip you, we can come back.
I don't have questions, but I do have comments from my personal experience. I see my daughter every day, Monday through Thursday, very engaged in finishing her activities, and I'm amazed here by the variety of activities, the amount of engagement that her teachers put in to keep her continue learning. And this is definitely very beneficial, so students do not lose learning during this hard time. And I really appreciate the work by our district. This is by comparison to the previous district that I live in, which is also a high performing district. But my friends' comments is that the teachers are not doing anything, and some teachers already putting the entire all the assignments for the rest of the term, just leave them to students. So I'm very happy and very moved by what CCS teachers are doing for students. Thank you.
Thank you, Lynn. Layla?
Yes, I'd like to reiterate what Lynn is saying. I have two boys. Well, I've got three, all very different learners, and they have been challenged, and it really has been a very positive experience for us as well. One thing, I was really happy to hear, Amy, that you were touching on feedback and how we're growing and learning through the feedback. And what I was, you know, my question for you and maybe Dr. B, maybe even Christy, I'm not sure whom, where are we housing these lessons learned through this experience? It would be really, it'd be sad if we aren't, you know, growing and getting better through this entire experience. We really hadn't had e-learning days prior to this. And we jumped in, wow, we just dove right in. And our teachers and administrators have been doing amazing things. I personally don't feel like my children have much of a slide, and God willing, everybody else's children are on the same, you know, launch pad, and they're growing and learning along the way as well. But how are we as a district growing and learning through this experience, and where are we housing all this information so we can continue to get better?
Sure. So, you know, one of the benefits of this is we, we were thrown into this and we had to swim, and our teachers are swimming wonderfully with, we've been using Canvas now for 4 years, and we've had some teachers that really embraced that, and we had other teachers that maybe were just doing just the communication in Canvas, but now they have to use that tool. And what they're finding is that, it's really powerful, and how they can, once we go back to being in class, how they can continue to use that tool. And as I said, our teachers are creating a lot of different lessons, a lot of videos. Teachers have the opportunity to share, keep those courses, they keep them in their Canvas course. So this year, their Canvas course would go inactive, but they would still have opportunity to go into that course and have access to all that information. And then Canvas also has another tool called Canvas Commons, which teachers can upload into the Canvas Commons, and they can upload it just for Carmel Clay teachers. They can upload it for all teachers using Canvas. And so we do have a lot of teachers that are uploading different lessons. For example, our early literacy lessons, we have a very large number of video lessons that we have uploaded into the Commons, where the teachers are able to then pull those down and put them into their own individual Canvas courses. And we're also keeping a lot of the learning pieces and the ideas in our Google Docs, and we have Google folders. Like I said, our teachers are, last week, we had district sharing by grade level in our elementary schools, and then the teachers are uploading different ideas, different lessons into Google folders as well, to make sure that we can continue using this, the learning. Because right now we are 100% virtual. In the future, we don't know what that will look like, but we do know that we can continue to use technology to really amplify that learning, even if we're back to completely normal. And so it really has helped our teachers to engage, and then also our students to engage and to use that new technology. So that's a very positive piece of all of this has come out.
Thank you. I have one other question. We've reduced the elementary week to 3 days a week and the high school to 4 days a week. Has that had a positive effect? I mean, I know my kids are happy with it, but how has that been going?
Yeah, so the elementary day is on, it's still 4 days a week, but on Monday it has
Monday.
new content, but it's they can continue to engage in different enrichment, all different activities, and they more SEL pieces, and that has been a very positive effect for our students. And then the high school and the middle schools, because they're on that block schedule, they meet in their classes twice a week. That's why they're doing the 4 days. And then the teachers have that Friday as a planning day that has really helped with their well-being as well, because as many of our families are doing, and they're juggling, helping to support their children at home, many of our teachers are also juggling that, and that has seemed to help the mental health of our teachers as well, to have that day, that planning day. And as I said, what our teachers are really seeing is that everything seems to take much longer virtually, where you might be over planning and using that feedback and having that time to really plan and work with your team teachers as well.
I would just add, Layla, that our principals are doing a great job in shepherding their staffs, and they're collecting information and they're sharing it with one another as well. And then they're sharing that with our teams here. And the people that are in this meeting, every area is communicating and working it and trying to figure out the best ways to do things differently than we're used to. And so it's been really impressive. And I know it sounds like a broken record, but the collaboration that goes on in this district is amazing. All the social workers have been meeting, all of them, through a Zoom type format, and are collaborating with different ways to support kids and families, and and tracking people down to see where they are and what they need. And Dr. Dudley's group has just been a real good, obviously not perfect, but we are figuring it out kind of piece by piece. And one thing she shared that I've heard quite often is that kids we thought might not be engaged have been very engaged in this setting, and some that we anticipated would remain engaged were not. And so there's a big question mark there. How do we navigate that? What do we need to do? And we'll keep working the problem, but we got a lot of talented teachers, administrators, that are just doing a wonderful job, and I appreciate it. And it's tough. It is a tough setting.
Well, thank you. Another piece too, Layla, for your question. We wanted to also, so much is coming at everybody, and we wanted to really help manage that communication. And so what we implemented that seems to be working well is we have a daily administration log that we put new information into one document, and we share that out they have access to it where they can refer back to it. And that seems to have helped rather than getting a million emails, because as you know, everybody's getting a ton of information at this time. So that's another way we're capturing all of the things that we're learning as well.
Thank you.
Well, thank you, Layla. Thank you, Dr. Dudley, Dr. Beresford. Pam, any questions?
I just have two. Are IAs being utilized at all in this process?
Not really. There may be some where they may be in classrooms, like when the kindergarten class meets, the IA might come in so that they can see their instructional assistant in that classroom, because they miss that adult as well. Our IAs, Dr. Ostrike just recently put out some safe schools training. So I don't know, Dr. Ostrike, if you'd like to speak to that.
Absolutely, yeah. So those employees that are not expected to work at this time but are still getting paid, bus drivers, for example, bus assistants, instructional assistants, we have assigned not only the mandatory training for next year through Safe Schools, but additional training related to their positions and their work here in the district. So they received all of that training. They're working on that right now while at home at this time.
Well, thank you. And my second question, do the counselors contact students on their own, or do they just get referred to a counselor by a teacher?
Both. So the counselors and our social workers, they have their students that they know will need extra support. So they're reaching out to them on their own. And then they're also reaching out to students that maybe they don't necessarily know, but the teacher is saying they need extra support. So they're doing both.
Okay, thank you.
I'd share with you, Pam, every Wednesday when we're doing food distribution, there's social workers are in the line, and they're picking up 16 bags of groceries, and they're driving them to homes and dropping them off. And they're they're an amazing group.
Thank you.
Thank you, Pam, Dr. Dudley, Dr. Ostrike, Dr. Beresford. Katie, any questions?
Yeah, I just had a couple comments. Again, as a parent, it's an amazing view that we have. My middle schooler, who I will admit was not that great with doing homework, has had to learn the hard way about how to work from home and get things done. And her grades are going up. And so that's really given her this boost of confidence that she needed. And that's amazing. My son has an IEP for speech. It's incredible to see his speech teacher on a Zoom with him, and he's like, the road is rough and I'm ready, and doing all these amazing things through technology, so that does not, that he can continue that on next year. And then this is tough. It's tough for these kids. It's tough for the teachers. It's tough for parents. I know that my husband and I are both trying to work from home full time and keep our jobs and our sanity. and all these wonderful things. And I know that one of the great things is that we acknowledge that that's the case, that this is hard and we didn't ask for this. And I really appreciate the great wisdom and the grace that is given from the teachers when, you know, you can email and say, you know what, today's just really not working well. We're going to try again tomorrow. And I just really appreciate that flexibility and everything as we kind of go through this uncharted waters. And I thank the teachers for that and for the administration for supporting that. And, you know, just kind of a shout out and a virtual hug to all of you that are kind of going through the trenches. I really appreciate what you're doing. So thank you.
Thank you, Katie, for those comments, and other board members. Thank you for your comments as well. Next, we will move. The next report is an update on the construction of the new elementary schools. Mr. McMichael.
I will ask Eli Miller with the Skillman Corporation, our construction management firm, to provide an update for the board.
Thank you, Mr. McMichael. Ladies and gentlemen of the board, we appreciate the opportunity to provide you a construction update for the two new elementary schools, Carmel Clay Schools, Clayton Road Elementary, and Carmel Elementary School. I am Eli Miller with the Skillman Corporation, Senior Project Manager, serving you district-wide across all the construction projects. Hopefully you can hear me all right, and I'll keep the presentation brief, because I know it's getting late and past 9. I'll go ahead and share my screen. Can everybody see my screen? Excellent. So this is our first construction update for both school projects. As a reminder, both projects are 20-month projects. Clayton Elementary School started last fall, September last year. So we're about a little over 1/3 of the way through the project. That school is tracking to be turned over June of 2021. Carmel Elementary School, we completed the permitting process and started construction last month, and are well underway to start utilities and other underground work at Carmel Elementary School. First is Clayton Elementary. Progress to date. We've completed site demolition and a mass excavation of the site. I'll step back. A lot of the work we've done so far at both sites is underground, bringing utilities to the site, putting concrete foundations in place, improving the soils under the building, both under the footings and under the concrete slab on grade. So especially at Clayton Elementary School, you'll start seeing the building take shape. And we do have some photos that we'll get into later in the presentation. Some highlights we completed at Clayton Elementary. We've completed the cement stabilization for the soil on the building pad, so that provides strength for the soils for the building to sit on. Some specialty foundation systems due to the poor soil conditions we had at the site. All the concrete footings are in place, and we've started the underground utilities for the building, and we've erected about half of the structural steel, and as of today, approaching 3/4 of that. This is an aerial view. To give you a point of reference, Clay Center Road is on the right side of the site. North is to the bottom left. The new athletic fields would be in the upper right-hand corner, so the baseball and the football fields. You can see the building's about half completed as far as the structural steel erection. And you see the balance of the footings off to the east side of the site. This might not mean much to a lot of people. This is the sanitary sewer main extension. This excavation is about a little over 30 feet deep. So this is a huge endeavor to undertake. Takes a lot of planning, a lot of coordination, for the watering, the shoring system that keeps the excavation safe for our workers. This is a lot of work, a lot of effort, a lot of time. So I think this picture really shows some of the work as far as the underground utilities we're doing right now, and the progress we are making. This is a good image of the structural steel erection for the building. This is taken from the north side of the site looking to the south. You see the building is about halfway done. As of today, we're about 3/4 the way done. And once all the structural steel is set, we'll start with the metal roof decking and also the concrete block walls. Planned work for the next 2 to 3 months at Clay Center Elementary. We plan to complete the structural steel framing as long as Mother Nature works with us. All the steel bar joists and metal deck installed. Starting the roof. The next major milestone we hope to report on is the building is weather tight. So that means the roof is on, the exterior walls are up, and the building is pretty well protected from rain and inclement weather. That'll allow us to start some of the interior walls and drywall work inside. You'll start seeing the exterior concrete block walls go up starting in about 2 weeks. We look to complete all the underground utilities under the building footprint, so that's the plumbing and electrical work that's under the building. And then start pouring the concrete slabs on grade and then completing the rest of the site utilities, the water, the storm sewer, and the sanitary sewer. Carmel Elementary School, that building started last month. Progress to date, we've completed the site demolition, installed all the temporary construction fencing, which there's quite a bit of that to protect the adjacent neighborhoods, keep our debris inside the fence, and keep onlookers outside of a safe distance. And then we've installed all the temporary construction roads. Next week, we are mobilizing to start some of the specialty foundation systems. So you'll see some really interesting construction equipment on site if you wander over there. This picture is taken from the south looking north. 4th Street is on the left side of your screen. In the foreground, you see Carmel Library and Carmel High School. All the site demolition has been completed. As of this week, all of the cement stabilization, lime stabilization will be completed. That brings extra strength to the soils for the building itself. So we have a nice solid foundation to build upon. Next week we'll be starting foundations, the concrete foundations and the aggregate pier systems that support those foundations. Here you see some of the equipment staged, and our construction fencing is installed. It's hard to see from the pictures. Our construction roads are in place on the west side of the site. As a reminder from our presentation, probably about a year ago now, we do have construction fencing that separates the bus loading and unloading area from our construction drives, and there are gates in place so we can control construction deliveries during the school day. Hopefully when school gets back in session this fall, in regular session, not e-learning. Plan work for the next 2 to 3 months. We will continue with our max excavation. We will start digging for the underground storm sewer detention system. That's on the northeast side of the site. That's to hold the storm water, which is a requirement that we have to control that on site and slowly release that into the storm sewer network. We'll start the concrete footings and complete those. The aggregate piers which support the concrete foundations will be started and completed. Structural steel, that's going to be a big one that'll be coming late May. Start seeing those deliveries show up. and then all the underground utilities, the sanitary main extension, the water main extension, and the storm sewer system. All that work will start taking shape mid-May. And hopefully come June, July of next year, the buildings will look like this. At least that's the goal. That's the intention for us and CSO architects. At this time, if there's any questions, I'll entertain those. If not, I'll give it back to Carmel School Board.
Well, first of all, Eli, one, thank you for the very exciting and informative report. And second, we appreciate you hanging out with us for a couple hours till we got to you. Before I open it up to questions for the board, Roger, do you have anything you want to add, or should I just let Eli answer questions?
I'll just let Eli answer the questions. I believe that he covered this, but we are on schedule, so the current
Correct.
has not had a negative impact in terms of the construction work that we're doing.
All right, thank you. Pam, any questions?
Pam, you are muted right now.
Yeah, I got it. Roger, what did you just say that did you say the virus doesn't have any effect on what's going on, or what did you just say?
Essentially, yes, that the current crisis has not had a negative impact on our construction projects, and certainly including these two large projects. They are on schedule as originally planned.
Okay, that's good to know. And let's see, where are we with the purchasing or the accessing of that house that's supposed to give us an entrance to Carmel Elementary?
We're really not. We have attempted to purchase the house on two different occasions. Most recently, we tried a second time, and the owner of the home is just not at this point willing and interested in selling her house. And we're now very quickly approaching the point where it would be too late, given the schedule for the school, to continue to pursue that.
Well, where will we put the other entrance then?
Well, the current plan for the entrance is on the west side, essentially as it is now. It's configured much better, but the traffic will come in on the west side.
Oh, okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Pam. Katie, any questions?
No questions.
Thank you. Lynn, any questions?
No questions, thank you.
Thank you, Lynn. Layla, any questions?
Just one quick question. Has there been any cost savings with this, the epidemic, or I guess the pandemic? I know gas is a lot cheaper. Are there other things that might have decreased in price, so we'll save some money through this?
Are you referring to the construction projects?
Yes.
Nothing that immediately comes to mind. The construction bids are already in. So certainly that will be the majority of the cost. We will still have furniture and furnishings and a few things like that. But nothing in terms of the scope of the project, nothing of, major expense as far as future expenses.
I was thinking maybe really cheap prices on steel or something. Okay.
Well, we're past that because we have accepted bids. Potentially that could benefit the contractors, but they will not be changing their prices as far as I know.
Okay. That's all, Mike. Thank you.
Okay, well, thank you, Eli. Before we let you go, Dr. Beresford, any update, anything that you'd like to add to the construction report?
No, it's just getting exciting. It's nice to see the bones going up out there on Clay Center Road, and they talk about soil stabilization, that's the foundation, and those, you have to have that good foundation. And so once that gets going, it'll go up quick. Looking forward to seeing it happen.
Well, thank you, Dr. Beresford, Roger, and Eli. Thank you very much for the report. Next, we will move to the monthly financial update. Again, Mr. McMichael.
Thank you. Let's see if we can get this going here. Okay, I assume everybody can see the screen. And so I'll begin, we're through March now. And so relative to our education and referendum funds, we are on track with where we would expect to be. You can see from the report that our ending cash balance continues to decline, and that will continue until we start receiving the local levy, primarily from property tax. I think the board's aware that potentially, well, not potentially, that taxpayers have the opportunity to delay their taxes up to 60 days unless they have had those taxes escrowed. So we're anticipating a delay in receiving all of our property tax, but it will be a delay, which is not assuming that we will not receive the taxes. It's just that there will be a delay. But so it's really a cash flow issue, but we have sufficient cash balances in our combined funds to handle the cash flow. So we will not find it necessary to take out tax warrants or temporary borrowing. And if you compare 2020 for the education fund and referendum fund, you can see that our cash balance at this point is better this year than it was last year. That too is not surprising. One is our we would expect the actual cash to grow to some extent because our budget's larger. And so that was, that's a part of our planning, because we look at our cash balance from a percentage standpoint, not just a cash standpoint. Relative to our operations fund, it's again, we're 3 months into it. This fund is not does not track as closely as our education fund, because there are any number of non-personnel expenses in our operations fund, and so it depends on the timing of those expenditures, and that can vary from one year to the next. But in addition to that, we had accumulated cash in our operations fund to pay a deficit really that we had in our insurance fund that was needed to support the early retirement incentive program. And so we got that caught up this past year. And so if you were to compare our cash balance beginning in January of this year as compared to the previous year, it's down a couple $1 million or so. And so that that reflects through as we go through the year. So again, we're on track with what we would have what we have projected, and are not surprised that the balance is less this year at this time than it was last year. And you can see here on our bank reconciliation, we had a balance of just over $33 million. And then the last report is just the funds report, which shows the cash balance in various funds. So with that, I'd respond to questions that you might have.
Thank you, Roger, for that report. We'll go to questions from Katie first.
No questions.
Thank you, Lynn.
No questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Layla.
No questions.
Thank you, Pam. Any questions?
No, I already asked them earlier, so no questions.
Thank you. Dr. Beresford, anything you'd like to add for that report, or any questions you have?
No, sir. Thank you.
All right. Well, thank you, Roger.
Thank you.
Next, we will move to reports. We have a legislative update, Leila. Leila, we can see your screen. You're just probably muted.
Okay. Am I unmuted now?
Yep, you're good.
Okay, thank you. I have now two screens and I was lost, so sorry. A 2020 legislative report is a liaison. I'm presenting that this evening. We've just finished the second regular session of the 121st Indiana General Assembly. Just a small little recap. It was the short non-budgetary session, but there are little cost savings in some of the acts that were enrolled. It opened January 6th, concluded March 11th, and during those 10 weeks, 903 bills were introduced, 168 were actually enrolled, and of those, 33 enrolled acts impact K-12 public education pretty significantly. Not all of them impact Carmel Clay Schools, so we're really going to be focusing on 10 specific acts that have the most impact, and we're going to break this up into several different meetings. Tonight, we're just going to be talking about the 3 that have had the most impact so far. And with enrolled acts, they can go into effect at any time. Most often it's July 1st of the year that they've been enrolled. Sometimes these bills will be effective upon passage, and then there are some that are retroactive, and we'll be touching on all 3 of those this evening. As a reminder, since we know that together we achieve, our mission, Carmel Clay Schools, will provide opportunities for all students to realize their potential in an ever-changing world. And as Dr. Beresford referenced earlier this evening, our guiding principles start with students are at the center of every decision and end with fiscal responsibility is fundamental to achieving our vision. And with that, having both of these in the back of our minds is how we approach our legislative session and how we look to see what ways we can engage our legislators to be the best at getting better. So this year, as a reminder, our legislative goal was to partner with our state and congressional legislators for the purpose of being credible resources, to help them in developing initiatives to improve what is the general and uniform system of common schools, as well as minimize the unintended negative financial consequences that typically happen when the best intended policies are passed. And through various discussions with our legislators, with our board, as well as administration, there's a number of areas of common interest that we focused on this year. We had ESSA compliance, deregulation, student support services, the public question, otherwise known as a referendum, and dispute resolution and accrual accounting. And I'm happy to report that several areas have been addressed with this legislative session, so we're quite excited. As I reported earlier, we have a number of state legislators and congressional leaders that we have had extensive dialogue with in meetings. Dr. Beresford and I have met with everybody on this list and continue to have conversations. I'd like to add that Mike Kirshner, as well as Pam Knowles, have been with me on a number of occasions as well, and have met with our state legislators and our congressional leaders with me, which has been very helpful. The team approach has been very effective. So the 3 that we're going to be focusing on tonight, the first is Senate Enrolled Act 2. Many of you might have heard this as the Hold Harmless Law, and this was one of the very first to be passed. Governor Holcomb signed this bill on February 12th, and it is a retroactive bill. And this bill addresses the use of the 2019 and 2020 iLearn scores for our state accountability grades. And it gives school systems a flexibility to use the 2018 ISTEP scores. Now, we were very fortunate that we had great iLearn scores, not as high as our ISTEP, but overall, Carmel Clay students performed very well. And being that our state assessments have been canceled this year, I'm not quite sure if this will be extended. That remains to be discussed. But what this will do and does do is it allows time for our professional educators to align the instruction to the new proficiency standards that these state tests are measuring. The second is House Enrolled Act 1002. This otherwise is known as the teacher evaluation law. And what this bill does, it eliminates the statutory requirement that the iLearn scores must be used for teacher evaluation. I know we were very much pushing for this. During our discussions, it's very important to us in Carmel Clay Schools to decouple having student performance impact the teacher evaluation and their achievement scores, which we don't have them this year. So this is probably another area that will be extended. But the decoupling is very important, and we are thrilled to see this particular House Enrolled Act move forward. This one was actually effective upon passage. So this went into effect March the 21st, signed by Governor Holcomb. The next bill is pretty extensive. It's the School Freedoms Act, or the DREG law. For this House Enrolled Act 1003 has several areas that impact Carmel Clay schools. And then there are a number that don't impact our schools. So I did not include those. I simply included the areas that really have the most impact for Carmel Clay. Like I said, it's a robust act. What this deregulation bill does allow, it gives the State Board of Education the authority to streamline the process for school employee training, including the timing, the frequency, and the method of training. So we were very much pushing for deregulation, and this has provided, it gives oversight to the State Board of Education, which is excellent. The other area that the State Board is allowed to do, it can grant waivers to schools or a group of schools that apply for flexibility to the rules. So if there's a rule or a statute that we would like some flexibility to not push forward, as long as you can prove that it improves student performance and outcomes, that it would offer flexibility to our administrators to improve efficiencies in school operation, that if it would promote innovative education approaches for our student learning, as well as advance the mission or purpose of our school or the school districts that are involved, we can apply for these waivers. So this is a really exciting addition to this Enrolled Act. The other areas that actually are cost savings for our school system are the first points here. This Enrolled Act allows our school corporation to publish simply a summary of our annual performance report, as well as the annual financial report in the local newspaper, with a description of where to find the report, the full report online. Prior to this Enrolled Act being passed, it was stated in statute that our school system had to pay for an ad in the local newspaper each and every year, the entire annual performance report, as well as a financial report. And this will be a considerable cost savings to us, since most everything is done electronically anyway, that we can just publish a summary and then have additional information on where to find that online on our school website. Interestingly enough, this particular act, since there are so many components, various parts of the law are effective this July 1st. Some were effective upon passage, and still others, and it was they impacted actually charter schools and freeway schools. Those don't go to effect until July 1st of 2021. So this particular law has all sorts of effective dates. This went into effect, well, it was signed into law then on March the 18th. Now what we have for future review, and I'll break these up into Senate enrolled acts and then House enrolled acts. We've got several Senate enrolled acts, SCA 273, Indiana Behavioral Health Commission. Then we've got 295, various education matters, 319, which are practitioner and accomplished practitioner license, 346, students with disabilities, and then SEA 398, various education matters. There are two House enrolled acts that have various components that impact Carmel Clay schools. And so we'll be unpacking those at a later date as well. House Enrolled Act 1065, various tax matters, and then 1066, various education matters. And so with that, I am opening up for any type of questions.
Well, thank you, Layla, for that very informative report and update. We appreciate all your work from before the start of the session, through the session, and through the report today and going forward. Before I open it up for questions to the board, Dr. Beresford, would you like to add anything to Layla's comments?
None other than what you just said. I really appreciate Layla's leadership and the whole board really in your involvement in legislative matters, because in order for us to be efficient and to make Indiana a teacher-friendly state, changes have to occur legislatively, and I think we were a good resource for our lawmakers, and there was some influence there, and I think we're making very positive steps toward again making this a teacher-friendly state. So appreciate your work.
Well, and I would like to just add in a big plug for Dr. Beresford. He's continuing to have conversations with our state legislators. There's a number of different areas that need to be addressed given these new virtual learning situations, and that we are no longer in the school. And he, like I said, is continuing to have some conversations to get some emergency bills and waivers passed that will support our students.
Well, thank you both. Pam, do you have any questions for the legislative report?
No, I do not. Thanks. Great job, Layla.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you. Katie, any questions?
My question is just kind of, Layla, is just kind of your feedback on, do you feel like with what we did a little bit differently with our legislative priorities this year, do you feel like that was successful? Like, how do you feel like that worked for us?
I feel like it was very successful. It gave us flexibility to have far greater and more in-depth conversations. And I didn't feel like we walked in with an agenda that was do this for me, do this for me, do this for me. We still had an agenda. We still had several areas that we wanted to be sure we addressed, and those conversations happened. But I think it was an easier way and a more friendly way to approach the conversation.
Perfect. Thank you for sharing.
Thank you. Lynn, any questions on the legislative report?
I had the same question as Katie, and I'm glad to hear that our new approach to getting engaged, building relationship with lawmakers went well. Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, thank you both. I mean, we know a lot of this is about building relationships, and part of the reason that we shifted our focus a little bit was to be able to be a resource to the legislators that we've had great relationships with in the past and continue with. And we're fortunate as a district to have great elected officials that not only listen to us, but turn to us when they've got questions. So thank you both. Next, we will move to the superintendent's report. Dr. Beresford. Right, you got to unmute.
I knew that was going to happen. I think I heard the clock ringing. That I don't know if that was the, hey, Beresford, hustle up here. But I'll tell you what I'm going to do. I've got 2 meetings worth of things to report. And so what I think I'll do is I'll publish those in the board update in its total. And I'll just do kind of some headlines for you. How about that? We'll cut it down, but we will get the detail into that board update. So I'm just going to go fast. I want to congratulate Senior Angela Lee, who was named a 2020 Academic All-Star. So there's only 40 kids across the state to get chosen as an Academic All-Star. So that's a big honor for Angela. Reminder that 2020 census is going on. Sign up is going to have a big impact on finances around Carmel for 10 years or more. Wellness Center, congratulations to Roger and his team. And they got national recognition at the World Healthcare Summit. And they tied for first place in the mid-sized group, received a Health Value Award, and keep popping there. So everybody can give a virtual clap for that. Once again, Carmel is named Best Communities for Music Education by NAM, 9th consecutive year. And Carmel Clay Schools won only 4% of districts across the nation to receive that award. And so to get that 9 times in a row, our music department, amazing, just amazing. Don't forget the Carmel Education Foundation's Educator Honor Roll. So with Teachers Appreciation Week next week, one way to show that appreciation is you can nominate a teacher and donate on their behalf to the foundation, and then they give out great idea grants, and there'll be information on how you can do that, in the report. Highlight, the Carmel High School Highlight again earned a Pacemaker Award, which is the Pulitzer Prize of Scholastic Journalism. And they were first place in website large school, first place in their COVID-19 coverage, online news feature or feature package. They were second place in print news magazine, and 10th place in the special edition that they did earlier in the year. Last week was National Library Week, and we wanted to celebrate our media specialists and assistants. And they've been doing some amazing things in this virtual world, supporting our teachers and people was wondering what would the media specialists do. They jumped in and really helped a lot with Canvas and a lot of the technology training with that. So it was great. Carmel Cares Initiative has been fun, hasn't it? A great idea. I think it came out of Carmel High School. One of our assistant principals and had the vision and shared it, and it grew and grew and grew. Courtney Taylor's been real involved with that. And this week's theme is exercise your body and mind. And so we want everybody to exercise your body and mind and share it on social media with the hashtag Carmel Cares. And been some good things going on with that. And it's good for your mental and physical health. Along those lines, this section is called Cool Things People Are Doing. And one of them was Ryan Osborne's basketball team. I don't know if you guys caught this. They made up this bingo game. And the bingo game is very interesting because it says like shoot 100 free throws and record it with time-lapse video and post it. And then it says thank a nurse, doctor, healthcare professional, make breakfast for your family, run 2 miles before the sun comes up. Just a lot of interesting things, keep kids engaged and keep them busy in a positive way, which was good. Cherry Tree used a 3D printer to make what they call mask relief hooks and belts. So instead of going around the ears, so there's a plastic strap just to help our medical folks. So proud of those guys. High school's doing some really cool stuff. Graduation boxes are going to be delivered to every graduating senior with cap and gown, so they can get their pictures going, their graduation pictures going. And then distinguished committed graduate attire, the official graduation program, student composite, and a special gift, which I won't clue them in because it's a surprise. And kind of a cool thing about that is our bus drivers and a staff member are going to deliver it to their afternoon bus stops. To deliver them, they're going to use appropriate social distancing to keep everybody safe. And we need to remind students, be safe, be smart, stay apart, make sure as you come to your bus stop, keep 6 feet apart, and there's a plan, and that's been communicated. But how cool is that? Then we're back to WHJE 93.1 on your FM dial, and they had major successes in the state and national radio competitions. They were the Indiana Radio School of the Year, and then they were runner-up National Radio School of the Year. They had 16 national winners, 2 individual state winners, 25 national runners-up, and 9 state runners-up. Along those lines, Carmel High School's athletic program were awarded the best all-around high school sports program for 2019-20 school year. Awarded them what they win is called the Max Preps Cup. And what they do is they take all the athletic programs in the nation, and they have a scoring system. And we've been in the top 10 a bunch, but this is the first time we've won the entire thing. So that's a big shout out to the athletic program and the coaches and the athletic directors. Nice for Bruce Wolfe to go out as the best athletic program in the nation, along with, of course, Jimmy Inskeep, our director. So great job there. Graduation, big topic of conversation. Working on 3 plans. One is to, if this order gets lifted in time, we could have a regular graduation. Percentages probably aren't great for that to happen, but I'm always optimistic. Plan C is to have a virtual graduation. They're going to make the virtual graduation regardless of what happens. So that's kind of like our safety. And it'll be kind of cool to have that. Even if we're able to do something else, that'll be something the kids will always have. And I think it's going to be a pretty cool thing. And then plan B is kind of a little bit of everything. They're using all kinds of creative ways to celebrate and have some kind of a ceremony, and they'll probably be catered to whatever the rules are, by the state for social distancing, if we're able to do some. Kids have been submitting cool things that they've heard or they've thought about or they've seen on social media. So there's a lot of ideas getting cooked around. But I really appreciate the Carmel High School administrative staff, because it's hard enough to just plan one graduation. And they're like working multiple scenarios, trying to figure out what can we do to make this special for the class of 2020. And that Greyhound Nation they've got going on over there, I'm real proud of them. And not to be outdone by that, they're planning a summer dance for juniors and seniors because we didn't get to do prom. But they're also doing a virtual prom. It's going to be on May the 2nd, and they're going to have a DJ and a mix of music and a light show online. And then they're also going to have celebrities who will visit. And these are like real celebrities, not like, Roger McMichael and Tom Ostrek. It's like, big time stars like Amy Dudley. But anyhow, I think it's going to be pretty cool. So anyhow, it's a chance for students to get dressed up and dance the night away. Of course, there's been no close dancing. It's all at least 6 feet apart. So we'll be keeping your distance like a junior high dance here. Finally, my penultimate announcement is we're very pleased to present the distinguished and commended graduates for the class of 2020. And we'll have that 137 seniors were chosen this year, and they've got criteria for folks to make that. And then Madeline Sailors was awarded the top distinguished graduate honor. So she'll be, I think, given a speech at graduation. And we just want to all celebrate these seniors any chance you get in these coming weeks, because we really want to show them that we love them, and we are proud of them, and that they're an amazing group to be able to keep going in this environment. My bell ringer is simply to talk a little bit about the Carmel Youth Assistance Program. Carmel Youth Assistance Program's annual gala was canceled because of the virus, and this is a group that does the summer lunch program, summer food program for us. So their funds are down very low, and given this environment, last year they fed over 200 kids. Already over 500 have signed up for summer meals. That's 11 weeks of meals. So on their website, and this will all be in the board update, there's various ways that you can donate, or you can do some different activities. There's places you can shop that will donate parts of the, what you pay to make sure that all of our kids who are on free and reduced lunch will have food security this summer. So let's do what we can to support the Carmel Youth Assistance Program as they do the summer meals. And that concludes my abbreviated superintendent's report. Thank you.
Well, thank you as always for the very informative and uplifting report about all the great things that are going on. Do any board members have questions for Dr. Beresford? Seeing none, we will move to announcements before we close out the meeting. As we've heard, we will continue with virtual learning for all CCS students and administrators and families and staff. It takes a village to get this done, so we appreciate that. May 18th is our next school board meeting. It is a regular session. May 21st will be the last virtual day for students, followed by May 25th, Memorial Day. Probably not much significance to the school year anymore. And then our next board meeting will be June 8th, currently scheduled for a workshop session. Being 9:55, I thank all the board members for participating. I thank our administrators. I thank all of you in the audience who have stuck with us this long. It was a long meeting, but I think it was a very informative, productive. We talked about a lot of things. We learned about a lot of things. As always, great things are going on here in Carmel Clay Schools. So with that, may I have a motion to adjourn the meeting?
So move.
Thank you. Second.
Second.
Thank you. I assume all are in favor. Please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Meeting adjourned. Thank you and good night.
Thank you.